Welcome back to your daily dose of ancient wisdom. We continue our reading of Srimad Bhagavata, Book 1, Discourse 17, King Pariksit subdues Kali. Sutta said, There on the banks of Saraswati, the King Pariksit saw a Sudra bearing the insignia of royalty and with a club in his hand, belobering a cow and a bull as though they had no protector. The bull, who was white as a lotus stalk and stood with difficulty on one leg alone, was seen trembling and urinating, as it were, with fear while being beaten by the Sudra. As for the cow, who yields materials in the shape of milk, ghee, etc., useful for religious acts such as the performance of the sacrifices, the king found her most miserable, being kicked by the Sudra and bereft of her calf. Her cheeks were bathed in tears, and she had grown very lean and thin and was hungry. Mounted on his gold-plated car and stringing his bow, he challenged the tyrant in accents deep as rumbling of the cloud. Who are you that are powerful enough to strike the weak so violently in this land protected by me? Like an actor on the stage, you have put on a grab of a king, but by your actions you are a Sudra. By striking harmless creatures in a lonely place and at a time when Sri Krishna has gone far away, along with Arjuna, the wielder of Gandiva, you have proved yourself to be an offender and therefore deserve to be slain. Turning to the bull, he went on, As for yourself, are you some divinity in the guise of the bull, white as lotus stalk and moving on one foot only, having lost your other 3 feet and thus causing us great sorrow? On this earth, securely guarded by the stout arms of Pandava king, tears were never seen to drop from the eyes of creatures other than you. Grieve no more, O bull, let your fear of the Shudra be gone. Weep not, mother, may all be well with you so long as I am here to punish the evildoer. The good reputation, longevity, fortune, and prospects in other worlds of that wild king go to the dogs in whose dominion, O virtuous one, the people are indiscriminately oppressed by the impious. To put an end to the suffering of the distressed, this indeed is the foremost duty of the kings. Therefore, I shall slay this most wicked fellow and enemy of living beings that he is. Who is that amputated your 3 feet, O bull? A quadruped as you are. Let there be no afflicted souls like you in the realm of kings who are varieties of Sri Krishna. Tell me, O bull, who is that mutilated, innocent, and good souls like you, and thus sullied the fair name of Pandavas, the sons of Pritha? May God come to you. He who does evil to an innocent creature must have fear from me on all sides. Pious souls are surely benefited when wild creatures are subdued. I shall certainly cut off the arms, along with the armlet adorning it, of the individual, be he a veritable god, who is unbridled mindedness, inflicts injury on harmless creatures. It is indeed the paramount duty of a monarch to protect those who stick to their own dharma, punishing according to the instructions of the scriptures those other people who in this world would have strayed from the path of virtue, otherwise that is in adversity. Dharma replied, Such an assurance of protection to the distressed is quite becoming of you, the scion of Pandu, whose host of virtues compelled the divine Sri Krishna to accept the humble role of an envoy to you and your forebearers. Bewildered as we are by the conflicting statement of various thinkers, we know not the person who is responsible for the cause of suffering. O jewel among men, some who defy all differences declare their own self as responsible for their suffering. Others attribute it to the providence. Yet others ascribe it to their own doing. A fourth school avers nature to be the cause of suffering, while still others declare God as the bestower of suffering. Some again hold that the cause of the suffering is something beyond the reach of speech or mind. Now investigate, O royal sage, by your own judgment, which of these views is sound. Sutta continued. When Dharma spoke in this strain, Emperor Pariksit, O Saunaka, was disillusioned and with a calm mind replied to him as follows. The king said, You speak what is right, O knower of Dharma or the righteousness. Evidently, you are Dharma, the god of virtue, in the guise of a bull. You refuse to tell the name of your persecutor only because you know that the lot which fails to a wrongdoer is also shared by the denuncier. Or the right conclusion is that the ways of the divine Maya or the deluding potency are surely beyond the scope of the mind and speech of living beings. In the Krita age or Satya Yuga, you had 4 whole feet in the form of austerity, purity, compassion, and truthfulness. 3 of them have since been destroyed by the progeny or unrighteousness like pride, attachment, and hauteur. Now, O Dharma, you have only 1 foot left in the shape of truthfulness, of which you are somehow supporting yourself. Yonder unrighteousness in the shape of Kali, however, seeks to rob you of the same, strengthened by it is by falsehood. And this cow is no other than the good Mother Earth, whose heavy burden was relieved by the Lord and who was adorned all round by his charming footprints. Forsaken by him, the Holy Mother now grieves like an unlucky woman with tears in her eyes to think that Sudras who hate the Brahmanas and pretend to be kings will rule over her. Having thus comforted Dharma as well as Mother Earth, Pariksit, who was great car warrior, drew his sharp-edged sword in order to dispose of Kali, the spring of unrighteousness. Perceiving that the king was bent upon killing him, he threw off his insignia of royalty and placed his head at the king's feet, overwhelmed with fear. The praiseworthy hero Pariksit, who was kind to the meek and hospitable to those who sought his protection, took compassion to Kali, who had fallen at his feet, and did not slay him, but smilingly spoke thus. The king said, You have no cause for fear when you have joined your palms before us, that have inherited the glorious traditions of Arjuna, who has overcome sloth. But on no account should you stay in my realm, a friend as you are of unrighteousness. Ever since you took up your abode in the body of kings, the gods among men, these numerous vices of greed, falsehood, thieving, wickedness, propenness to sin, poverty, vile, cantankerousness, and hypocrisy have followed you. Therefore, O ally of the unrighteousness, you should not remain in Brahmavrata, which is a fit abode for pity and truth, and where Brahmanas, well versed in the elaborate ritual, propitiate the Lord of sacrifice through sacrificial performances. In this land of Brahmavrata, Lord Srihari abides in the form of sacrifices and blesses his votaries. Nay, moving inside as well as outside all animate and inanimate beings like air, that universal soul grants all their desires. Sutta continued. Kali trembled to hear this command of King Pariksit. He made the following request to the king, who stood ready to strike with his uplifted sword as Yama with his rod of punishment. Kali said, "Wherever I think of taking up my abode in obedience to your command, O Emperor, I find you bow and arrow in hand. Therefore, a jewel among champions of righteousness, I behoove you to tell me a place where I may settle down permanently in compliance with your orders." Sutta continued. Thus, entreated by Kali, the king then allocated to him the following 4 places: dice, wine, women, and shambles, the hotbeds of 4 vices of falsehood, intoxication, passion, and cruelty. On Kali asking for more abodes, the mighty king assigned him gold as the 5th abode. Thus he allotted to him the falsehood, intoxication, passion, and slaughter with animosity as the 5th. In obedience to the king's command, Kali, the progenitor of unrightfulness, occupied these 5 abodes assigned by Pariksit, son of Uttara. Hence, a man seeking blessedness, especially a pious monarch, a leader of people, and a religious preceptor, should never resort to these. The king then restored the 3 lost legs of the bull, namely penance, purity, and compassion, and comforted and cherished Mother Earth. The selfsame monarch still occupies the royal throne, which was bequeathed of him by his grand uncle King Yudhishthira while retiring to the forest. Shining with the glory of the Kaurava kings, the most blessed emperor of extensive renown, the royal sage Pariksit dwells even now at Hastinapura. Such is the majesty of King Pariksit, the son of Abhimanyu, during whose rulership over the earth you have undertaken the vow of performing the sacrifice. Note: in verses 43 to 45, the great King Pariksit has been spoken of as if he were present at the time when the holy sacrifice at Naimisharanya was in progress. According to the aphorism of Panini, the present tense can be used even with reference to the immediate past or future. The great Acharya Vallabha of revered memory points out in his famous commentary, the Subodhini, that even though Pariksit had departed from the world, his renown and glory were still alive. The distance of time which divided him from the period of the sacrifice undertaken by Saunaka and others had been eliminated in order to evoke the utmost reverence for him. His soul had merged in the Lord. That was also one reason why Sutta visualized him as present before his eyes. Not only the learned speaker, but his saintly audience also felt his presence. According to the Vedic maxim, the father himself is reborn as son. It was Pariksit himself who occupied the throne of Hastinapura in the person of his son and worthy successor Janamejaya. Considering all these points of view, a reference to Pariksit in the present tense goes to heighten the effect of the discourse. Thus ends the 17th discourse, entitled The Subjugation of Kali, in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as Paramahamsa Samhita. Thank you.